We're making the most out of tiny spaces. Coming up right after this. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. Now today we're all about small space gardening. I gotta tell you, there's no space too small where you can't grow some of your favorite plants and blooms. All you have to do is get a little creative. In today's show, we'll visit a garden in Chicago where the owners made a big impact on a small area. Plus, I'll show you how to create a fabulous container full of beautiful summer blooming plants and how to use a grow box. Plus, we're going to bring the kitchen garden indoors for easy access with a few simple steps, as well as prepare a dried herb blend. And as always, answer a viewer question. As you can see, there's a lot to cover in today's show, so when we come back, we'll get started. Don't go away. There's always room for gardening, even in small spaces. There's no limit to what you can create in these areas. On a trip to Chicago last summer, I met up with my friend Shauna Coronado, where she introduced me to a few unique ways that she's decorated her small garden space. Shauna, I'm enjoying warming myself by the fire here on your firebox in your outdoor room.
Outdoor room, and here's the thing that's so wonderful about this. All free. I'm a big free cycle person.
So the mantle free, furniture free.
Everything free.
Okay, how do you do that?
It's a great tool. Freecycle.org is a local community access online. And what you do is, it's like a giant garage sale where you switch everything, but it's all free.
Right.
So I found this for free, drove up the street and picked it up, brought it back, painted it, and shebang, it's a garden room. And so it's a great way to do sustainable things in the garden.
All the comforts of home in the house right out here in the garden. And of course in a garden room you have to have an entrance, and I love your arbor here. And then you have the path and the wine bottles as a border.
Wine bottles, use them. What we did was put it all along the border of the path. And then it's not cemented in, it's non-permanent.
Yeah.
But a great way to recycle something that everyone has on their counter.
I like them on the slight angle. And look at your potager, you have these 4 beds. I love the symmetry of it. And you're growing lovely vegetables here in the shade.
In the shade, that's the trick. So many people think you can't grow vegetables in the shade, but look, it's happening right here. We have kale, beets, even
celery,
herbs, society garlic, everything's here.
Look at the basil.
And they're planted in beds that are really recycled post-consumer plastic. So I love the idea of reusing, recycling whenever you can, and then growing vegetables in the shade. Everyone has some shade, you gotta do it.
It's really beautiful, and you've added splashes of color with the coleus, which is nice.
And then it's edged all with hostas. Hostas everywhere because of course they love shade. And they're rather drought tolerant. I have no extra watering needs here.
Let's step over into this room. I see some color on the wall.
Oh, my wall garden.
Wow, Shauna, you've got the color going on here. This is a great example of another vertical garden.
Blue.
Look at the color.
I love the blue, and here's why I put it up here. I wanted a wall of color that was sustainable. I could plant vegetables in it, and I didn't want to overfill it so that all you saw were plants. I love the color.
Sure.
And of course, I recycled all the old shovels. We have a climbing bean here going up the side, so it's really a whole wall of art.
I love it. You've got radishes, you've got chard. Look at the stalks of that chard.
Oh, so tall.
It resonates with all the other reds here. I think it's fantastic.
It's planted with all organic soil, and it's been doing marvelously.
Now tell me, how do you keep something like this watered? Is there a little drip system there, or do you just stand here and just soak it with the hose?
I soak it with a hose, but here's the thing. You need to hit that back wall. If you hit the back wall, that material absorbs the water and it wraps all around the plant.
Now these pockets are made from recycled, what, plastic bottles?
It's true, and it feels like wool when you touch it.
I love the fact that you've used both vegetables and flowers in it, so it's not only beautiful, but it's useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a little touch of heaven. I love the wall.
Well, I just love your creative expression, and particularly what you've done throughout this garden on these vertical, often underutilized spaces. Thanks for sharing today.
Well, thanks for coming. It was wonderful.
After the break, we'll create this fantastic container, and a little later, make this dried herb blend, so stay tuned. I don't know about you, but I love a contest. Last year, we had the most fun with a contest with an audience of about 400 people. We got 3 people to come up on stage, and they threw together, within a certain amount of time, 3 containers, and Valerie Pagunas won. It was outstanding. And so it was so beautiful that I thought for this year, I would create one for my own garden. So let me show you what I'm doing. I'm taking that old adage, the filler, the spiller, and the thriller, and I'm going to work them into this container. And I'm starting with, about a 22-inch Italian terracotta double rim pot, because I just think they're classy looking. I filled it up with a soil mix, and this is one that's specifically blended for growing plants in containers. And notice how I squeeze the slightly moistened soil and it just falls apart. That's a good sign. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the plants that go in the center, and this is one of my favorites. It's an Angelonia. This one's called Angel Face Blue. And you see when the roots are a little compacted like this or wrapping around one another, what you want to do is you just want to gently tear into those like that. And I tell you, I love this Angelonia because it really does bloom all summer long and has a slight fragrance. It smells slightly like grape juice or grape Kool-Aid, which I loved as a kid. So I've got these worked in the center. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of these organic fertilizer spikes, and I'm gonna use about 6 of them, and I'm gonna go ahead and poke them in around this plant because it's here in the center, and then I'm gonna put some right around the edge because next comes the fillers. And the plant that's going to fill in is this wonderful Caroline, sweet Caroline, light green sweet potato vine. So I'm gonna put one here. This sweet potato vine, like many of the others, really is more of a bush form. It doesn't run out and make really long runners. So it makes it a nice round mass here, and these are gonna come up above. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is use a Calibrachoa. And this one is called Chiffon Yellow. So I'm gonna work these in here, one on this side like that. And then I'm gonna take one like this. I'm just gonna break the soil a little bit on it. And I'm gonna place it in here. And what's wonderful about these is that all these plants require about the same amount of sunlight, the same amount of water, and of course they all need really good drainage. And then to finish it off, I have 2 of these little Macadonias. Another name for it is a gold dust plant, and I'm telling you, this thing bloomed like crazy in my garden last year. So I'm gonna tuck one of them right in here, like this. And so you're gonna come over here and put another one on this side, like this. Where you're gonna place this, place it where it's gonna get half-day sun at least, or up to full day sun. And you just wanna make sure that you water it in initially and make sure that it stays consistently moist. And one way to do that is to place a saucer under the container. And you don't want this thing to sit in water because it will rot. But these plants don't require a huge amount of watering, but they can become very dry when the summer gets really hot. And this is the kind of container that is going to bloom and perform all summer long for you, but you are going to have to cut back, like I said, a little bit of the sweet potato, and as the flowers fade on the Angelonia, what you want to do is just pinch some of those off. One of them got broken off. I'll just show you here. You just pinch it off like that, and what it will do is it will continue to produce more and more blooms. Give it a try.
My name is Tim Hawkins, and I'm with the Garden Patch Grow Box, which is a container garden that grows vegetables for anybody. Gardeners today, they worry, gosh, I'd love to grow some vegetables, but it seems like a lot of work. But with the Grow Box, anybody can grow vegetables right on their patio or on their deck. Let me tell you how easy it is to set it up. Well, the first thing you do is you assemble the 2 parts of the planter together, and the bottom part is the water reservoir. That's where you'll add the water. This is the aeration screen here, and this provides oxygen to the roots of your plants. So you push down these 2 areas here that create the wicking wells. These wicking wells actually allow the soil to go into the water, so when the soil's touching the water, then the water constantly moves up into the soil. So it's automatically adding the right amount of water for you 24/7. We packed down the soil a little bit in the wicking wells. Now we're going to fill the entire planter up with soil. Fill it all the way to the top. Don't leave any space. We want to get a nice base for the plants to grow in. Just gently pat it down a little bit, moisten it down somewhat, and you're basically ready to plant. And then I'm going to lay the nutrient patch right on top of the soil. These two bags here will melt away as soon as they touch the water, and that's going to add all the fertilizer your plants are ever going to need right in a stripe, right on top. It's so easy to plant with a grow box because it has the numbers on top, and you just plant by the numbers. If you look at the instructions, it says, well, if I want to go salads, I'll put 2, 4, 6, and 8. If I want to go tomatoes, I'll put them at 2 and 19. It's very simple. You just cut out these little cubes here and plant your plants right into the soil. So we're going to grow some tomatoes and a little basil here. We're going to have a nice Italian garden. So I think I'll put 2 tomato plants in there and 2 basil plants. In about 2 weeks, you're going to see them hit that fertilizer and they're just going to take off. You'll be amazed how quickly they grow once they get a hold of that fertilizer. The grow box was developed from techniques they use in the commercial fields, where they cover the fields with black plastic and they grow all of the tomatoes and peppers and strawberries that are grown in the winter. What we've done is just taken it and put it in a container and made it easier for the homeowner.
Okay, it's time to take another break, but when we come back, I'll show you an easy way to have lettuce growing right where you need it, in the kitchen. Plus, I'll answer a viewer question, so stay with us. Growing a single head of lettuce in a pot on a sunny windowsill is perfect for an apartment dweller, or for those of us who just want fresh lettuce at our fingertips. Simply start by filling a terracotta container with a good quality potting soil. I've used one designed especially for vegetable and herb gardening. Then create a space in the center of the container and plant your lettuce. Next, be sure to give your lettuce plant a good dose of water and set it in the window. You can harvest leaf lettuce from the outside of the plant, leaving the central bud to grow more leaves. Or you can cut the entire plant at the base. You see, leaf lettuce is ready to eat at just about any size, and you can pick the baby leaves for tender salads. So try planting a single head of lettuce or 2, like Butter Crunch, one of my favorites, and enjoy the fresh flavor all season long. Okay, it's time for viewer questions. Laura writes and says, I would love to have containers in front of my house. Are there any tricks of the trade, Alan, that I could employ to make it even more effective by using these containers there? Well, Laura, there actually are some things you should know. If you will plant in larger containers, have fewer larger containers rather than a lot of small containers, you're going to have greater looking massing, plus it's going to be a lot easier to take care of. And always remember to keep saucers underneath your containers. That'll help you with your watering. The other thing to think about is go with one color family of blooms and foliage. You'll get more impact that way. I actually like to cluster all kinds of containers around entryways. This is my art studio, and I have some of my favorite plants here. As you can see, I have a mixture of blueberries and ivies, but here close at hand, these are all succulents, agaves, and aloes of all different kinds, and these plants require very little water at all, so it makes them really easy to take care of. So if you don't have a lot of time on your hands, Laura, you might think about some of these low water, low maintenance plants. I hope that's helpful to you, and good luck with your project. It's time for us to take one more short break, and when we return, we'll make this easy dried herb blend, so stay tuned. So you planted herbs this summer, tended them with care, and now you're ready to harvest them for using in recipes. While fresh herbs are certainly a delight, don't forget to dry some too. It's a simple process and it really doesn't take much time. You can air dry herbs by suspending them in bundles, but I prefer to use the oven. You see, it's almost instant gratification. The leaves won't get dusty, and I don't have to worry about finding the perfect place to hang them for the process to begin. To get started, just gather the herbs in the early morning after the dew has evaporated, but before the sun gets too intense. Then wash them and pat them until they're completely dry. Then remove the leaves from the stems and spread them out on a cookie sheet or recycled aluminum tray. And place the herbs in an oven heated to its lowest temperature for several hours and check them regularly. Once dried, just crush or crumble them and place them in airtight jars that are labeled and dated. Store your dried herbs in a cool, dark place. Now here's a recipe for an all-purpose mix that's good on meats and vegetables. This basic dried herb blend requires 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of dried oregano, 2 tablespoons of dried basil, 2 tablespoons of dried thyme, and 1 tablespoon of dried rosemary. Just mix all of the ingredients and place them in an airtight jar. This makes about ½ cup. Now remember, after about 6 months to a year, these dried herbs are going to lose their flavor. If the fragrance is still strong, the herbs are still usable and viable. Now here's something you might find helpful to know. When you substitute dried herbs for fresh herbs in a recipe, you'll want to use about half the amount. The essential oils are concentrated in dry herbs, so you don't have to use as much. Aren't these hydrangeas fantastic? Another great idea for a small space shade garden. These will even grow in containers. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And hey, anything on the show that you'd like, you can pick it up on my website, pallansmith.com. That includes that dried herb blend. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.